You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WYBC. When we launched this show, we had one idea in mind other than, well, expanding the previous work that we'd done just on WYBC. And that was, while a lot of other network news shows are written by about 11 a.m. in the day, we start writing our show at and after 4 p.m. Eastern. That is because there is often a lot of breaking news that major network outlets that are on the left side of the aisle will break on air, but a lot of those elsewhere in media won't. And so we have the pleasure of being one of the first network broadcast outlets to confirm that there is now in place a plan for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. According to a Truth Social statement from the President of the United States, this one that Marco Rubio was likely referencing when he handed him this note earlier, we'll get to that. According to President Trump, I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, we're going to get to that in a second, who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. That's a quote from the Sermon on the Mount. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. We were alerted to this a little bit earlier in the afternoon when President Trump, Secretary of State Rubio, several other members of the administration met with an Antifa roundtable. Several friends of the show, Nick Sordor, Andy No, Julio Rosas, met with the President of the United States to discuss the growing domestic terror threat here in the United States. And at one point, Secretary of State, Acting National Security Advisor, and everything else short of the Pope, Marco Rubio, strolled over to the president urgently and alerted him that there was an urgent matter. And again, seeing this on live TV is always an interesting thing, especially when it's coming from the Secretary of State.
Criminal conspiracy.
Okay.
So Rubio comes over.
Yeah, I was just.
He holds up a finger because the press all start yelling, like the press do. And Rubio hands him the note. Here's what the president says.
I was given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly. So I will take a couple of more questions.
Again, there is quite a lot of activity over at the White House. We also saw the president as well as the Secretary of State and the Vice President heading into the Oval Office, presumably for a series of calls. Then there was a press release that came out from the White House that said, quote, on Friday morning, President Trump will visit Walter Reed Medical Center for a planned meeting and remarks with troops. There, he'll stop by for his yearly checkup. Then, President Trump is considering going to the Middle East shortly thereafter. That's according to Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. So then all of the leaks started coming out. By the way, a lot of leaks flooded out. Special thanks to producer Nick, producer Daniel, and the Daily Signal team, Virginia Allen especially, for keeping a close eye on these events as they were developing. A picture of the note was posted where light bled through the note, and it was translated, or I guess flipped around, rotated, quote, very close. We need you to approve a Truth Social post soon so you can announce the deal first. This is that deal and likely that Truth Social post that the President of the United States approved. So now they have signed, they being the parties of Israel and Hamas, a complete ceasefire agreement, which is expected to go into effect across the Gaza Strip on Thursday, October 9th at 12 p.m. Cairo time. Now, this is a major, if this goes into effect and this peace plan begins the process of being enacted, if the hostages, live and dead, are returned, if Hamas is in fact expelled from the area, this would be one of the greatest diplomatic achievements in modern history, if not, as President Trump accurately describes it, in the history of governance itself. There would be no argument possible. This isn't according to me. There's a Democrat strategist, Mike Leon, the host of the Can We Please Talk podcast, who I often panel with, who said, look, as a Democrat, I cannot deny if Trump brokers this deal and it goes into effect, there is no reason this man should not be at the top of the list for the Nobel Prize. Now, right now, the Nobel Prize, I believe today, just gave an award to a Palestinian origin chemist. So this is going to be a very interesting situation. There's a weird news article from the Huffington Post that says people in Norway and Oslo are fearing retaliation if Trump doesn't get his way getting the Nobel Prize. Again, to broker a peace deal, an actual peace deal in the Middle East. And we have a photo that I'm trying to get added to kind of some of the B-roll footage of Israeli and Qatari and Egyptian officials shaking hands. I don't know if we have a photo like this in recent history. I don't think that we do. For Israeli and Egyptian officials, we do actually have this photo. Let's pull it up. For Israeli, Egyptian, and Qatari officials to be shaking hands, that's incredible. If this is true. Also Hamas as well, I believe. Officials, Hamas also shaking hands with Qatar. We've never seen anything like this before. Again, still hanging on. I need to see the agreement signed, and of course, that which comes after. That brings us to some other big pieces of news. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, could be in serious trouble. Serious trouble. And not from the outside in, but from the inside out. You will recall that during the Los Angeles and Palisades fires, Gavin Newsom strutted out in front of the media amid conflicting theories of what happened. It was a very sudden and abrupt fire. Even ABC 7 was pointing this out. Gavin Newsom strutted out immediately saying, oh, actually, it's climate change. That the fires were a result of climate change, global warming, Republicans are bad. Gavin Newsom.
This is anomalous. I remember Paradise happened in November. So there's no fire season in California. It's year round. But to have this level, the acuity of fires is without precedent. These winds are without precedent. And
so, first of all, wildfires are like a regular thing year round. No, not true. In the history of California, recently, yes. Historically, no. Then suggesting that this is unprecedented is an interesting move. The winds are unprecedented. Here's his argument for that.
Challenges, these winds are going to continue on and off, a little bit less intense. Last night, you got 80, 90-mile-an-hour winds. These guys were just up there to try to mitigate the embers going 2 miles and getting just to go a quarter of a mile to try to save some.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades ran out last night.
We'll leave Cooper alone for a second because this comes into play here in just a moment. Western Lensman over on X also pointed out Gavin Newsom blaming climate change, and then, of course, the press conference from today.
You can't rebuild the same. So we have to rebuild with science. We have to build with climate reality in mind. And this is the reality, the new reality of extremes, extreme heat, extreme drought. You have droughts and rain bombs. You have flooding at the same time you're dealing with droughts, all happening concurrently. There's a new reality, the world we're living in. And if you're not believing science, you have to believe your own eyes, your own lived experience. We have to wake up to this reality. We cannot be in denial about what's going on with Mother Nature.
I'm proud of the professionalism and dedication shown by our detectives and the team who work collaboratively with our federal, state, and local partners. That teamwork ultimately led to the arrest of the suspect responsible for this devastating crime.
Now, who is the guy that committed this particular crime? Well, the social media honchos are currently running through their various theories, but here's what we do know right now, and excuse me, the B-roll being a little out of order here. According to acting U.S. Attorney Bill Eseli, today we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm pronouncing it wrong, don't care. On the criminal complaint of charging him with maliciously starting what became the Palisades fire in January. So the complaint alleges that he started a fire in the Pacific Palisades on New Year's Day, turning into one of the most destructive fires in Los Angeles history. Radio crew, sorry, we have to send you to commercial per FCC rules. We'll be back in a second. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue on the live stream in the meantime. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. here on the live stream, quote, "While we cannot undo the damage and destruction that was done, we hope his arrest and the charges against him bring some measure of justice to the victims of this horrific tragedy." Rindernecht's, whatever, initial appearance is scheduled for today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern in the U.S. District Court in Orlando. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty. Apparently, some of the evidence collected from his digital devices were images that he generated on ChatGPT depicting people running away from burning cities. Just so you know, questions that you ask ChatGPT and other AI services, yeah, those are kept on the service. Just so that you're very well aware. Now, there are individuals who are claiming, oh, he was a Democrat donor and he was involved in left-wing stuff. He was a communist. I don't know any of the information confirmed on those things yet. We've been pressed with some other breaking news in the meantime. By the way, since our earlier announcements here, the Saudi Al-Hadath news agency was the first to announce that the deal had been signed, handshaken upon in the Middle East. Additionally, the Nobel group, I don't think I made this clear. I just want to make sure that this is clear. The Palestinian chemist who they awarded the Nobel Prize to, that was the Nobel Prize for chemistry, not for, peacemaking. But those things aside, it does appear the president of the United States might be making a trip to the Middle East for sure. Now, why would I say might be and for sure in the same outline there? Because sources are reporting that the White House is reaching out to essentially those who usually travel on Air Force One and saying, hey, pack a bag, we're going. So, again, if President Trump is able to broker a peace deal in the Middle East like this, that will be one of the most transformative of all time. David Meyer, again, $5 super chat, very kind, really appreciate that. On to other breaking pieces of news. Why does this matter to Gavin Newsom? Why is Gavin Newsom in trouble when he got in front and, started talking about climate change instead of possible arson? Well, according to Spencer Pratt, who lost his home in the fire, well, hear for yourself.
Boom! Our lawyers months ago told the court what caused the Palisades fire, and today the Department of Justice has proven us right. It was a rekindle of the New Year's Eve Lockman fire and wasn't properly contained by LA City Fire. The city left it to burn and the state left it to burn for nearly a week on their property. They are now on the hook for the dangerous condition that led to the destruction of my town. Told you. The best part is now, finally, we get access to the ATF report. I told you justice was coming. This is just the beginning.
Now, two quick things. Several reports allege we have sent a message into the Los Angeles mayor's office, Karen Bass' office. We haven't heard back yet. But as far as the situation right now, only 2 residential building permits for rebuilding have been granted in the last year. That is insane. That is insane. Number 2, again, remember there are kind of rules for what you are and are not allowed to do. You can see earlier coverage in videos that shows that the Los Angeles groups really should have, followed through on this rekindling situation. Here is that coverage. I want to make sure that I get the right coverage here.
These 2 videos obtained by the San Francisco Chronicle side by side. This nighttime video is from right around midnight New Year's Day. You see a flash on the ground and then a fire erupts near the top of a hill. This small brush fire, dubbed the Lockman Fire, sparked after neighbors say they heard fireworks.
Something very fishy going on. Newsom failed. We'll be back in a second because we got far more on the circus. Got to pick the radio crew up from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Again, we're continuing to monitor the situation in the Middle East. The President of the United States brokering a possible major ceasefire to go into effect in hours between Israel and Hamas across the Gaza Strip. Again, photography coming out of a meeting with Egypt, Qatar, Israeli officials, huge stuff going on. At the very least, it's rather interesting to see the progression of events in a ceasefire and peace agreement that so many parties in the Middle East have signed off on. Here in the United States, a little bit less on the progress side. And a lot of that comes down to Democrat officials who are doing one of two things. Number one, in the case of either covering for individuals who have committed arson, whether it's covering for Caribbean narco-terrorists, which we're going to get to, or covering for the stupidity of your own caucuses. The Democrat Party just really seems to be in a place where they are stepping on their own feet as much as possible. That is, when they're not shoving those feet into their mouths. Essentially, this comes down to a core phenomenon. Democrats really believed that Americans were going to be so outraged at this government shutdown, they were going to blame it on the party in power, being Republicans, and it was going to surge forward the Democrat Party, which has not produced any definitive measure of here's what we want to do with the country. Only they have flunked on that because of this one principle. As any government shutdown in the United States continues, everyone inside the Beltway, inside Washington, D.C., cares far more day by day, and everyone else in the country cares way less. So in D.C., the Democrats and a lot of the political nobility class of the country, they're freaking out more each day as the federal government shutdown continues. And in the rest of the country, yeah, it hasn't really affected most Americans. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, leader of the House for the minority party, not Speaker Johnson, but Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader, he's made a really big deal that Republicans have not come up to him and, negotiated any kind of an idea, maybe some kind of an, negotiate their way over the impasse, actually get a little bit of give and take here. Enter Representative Mike Lawler, Republican of New York, who waited for Hakeem Jeffries today and said, hey, look, we can actually fund Obamacare for the next year as a separate independent measure in the House. Send that over to the Senate. That way, you're saying Americans are going to lose access to these Obamacare subsidies. I, as a moderate Republican, I'm going to give it to you. Here's how Hakeem Jeffries responds. It's quite the Mexican standoff.
We got a 1-year extension. Why don't we sign on right now? Let me ask you a question. Did you get permission from your boss? Why don't we sign on right now? Did your boss, Donald Trump? You can easily extend the ACA Did your boss, Donald Trump, give you permission? Yes, he is. No, he's not. And by the way, so let me ask you a question. Why did you vote to shut the government down? Why did you vote to shut down? Let me ask you a question.
So we start off just right out of the gate, very strong. Hakeem Jeffries comes out, sees a Republican standing there with the measure, doesn't even wait to hear what it is. Immediately comes up, oh, did your boss send you out here? Did your boss send you out here? I have not seen anything from the Trump administration whatsoever to call for an extension of Obamacare subsidies. This is a moderate solution to the problem. Now, would I vote for this? No. This is a genuine case of actual bipartisan negotiation. This is the fig branch being offered. The olive branch in this case. You can have some figs afterward. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't like it. He's mad. He's grumpy. And so after asking if Donald Trump sent him, here we go.
For years, you always lecture about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to make yourself relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
You could sign on to this. The only embarrassment here is
You're an embarrassment.
You could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
It's a clean extension for 1 year.
You voted for the one big ugly bill, correct?
There it is. Okay. This goes on for another, I kid you not, 4.5 minutes. Hakeem finishes off not hearing the proposal to, again, just give money to Obamacare subsidies. That's all. Hakeem then finishes off. This is what the whole thing was supposed to be about. Remember, Republicans don't want to give health care. Everyone's going to die. All of these, they never say citizens. They say Americans, because it includes illegal immigrants. They're going to get their health care subsidies cut off. Here comes Representative Mike Lawler and says, okay, we'll fund it for a year while we figure this out. Because that's what you care about, right? You care about the health care. What does Hakeem Jeffries do? Let me ask you, you voted for the one big, ugly, dumb bill, the big, beautiful, dumb, ugly bill, right? This is the only consistent message that Democrats have actually carried through since the second Trump administration began. They are mad about the Trump big, beautiful bill, the government funding bill. They think that's going to resonate with Americans. It has not resonated once. There was a Democrat strategist, North Carolina, who I debated against, who tried the same kind of pre-scripted, written on a card message that he read out on the air. Well, people really don't like Trump's big, ugly bill. It isn't working. The big, beautiful bill, it's not even in the top 5 now. It's not even in the top 10 issues that voters care about in any party. Republican, Independent, Democrat, no one cares. This is what they're bringing it all back to, and it's a clown show. And if they're not talking about the big, beautiful bill in this healthcare government shutdown fight, a losing battle, then essentially all of the middle-aged Democrat women have now come out to party because no one's giving them attention. So by golly, they're going to get out there. They're going to make their own attention. Representative Katie Porter, who I believe is now running for the Senate in California. Katie Porter, she is getting raked over the coals because she's one of the most abusive congressmen or women, gender equality and whatever, in the history of the office. And, we had congressmen that left women to die in car accidents and stuff. So this is pretty rough. Representative Katie Porter, in a CBS interview, thoroughly berated the woman who was asking her questions. This is a wild clip. I'm really shocked to see it. So, of course, Katie Porter, California Democrat. Here you go.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're
saying. In a general election? Yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So
she doesn't get to choose that, by the way. California has magical rank, super duper voting for Senate elections like this. So, how again, just a simple question. Are you confident that you're going to win here? And look at her face just contorts into this angry Karen, there's a manager somewhere who feels something in the bottom of their spine.
How do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. Mm-hmm. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't think
I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
Oh, there it is. I love it. And by the way, my personal favorite is that there's always the saggy arm fat outward push from the liberal middle-aged woman. Like, well, hang on there. Like the arms are flapping in the breeze beneath her. This is how dare you be a reporter who asks me if I intend to win and how? Don't you know I'm just supposed to be bequeathed such goodnesses?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And
great. We got to send the radio crew off to commercial. There's more nonsense, more yelling and screaming here on the live stream. We'll catch you guys in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. We'll let Katie continue. She's really working herself into a tizzy now.
We've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that
I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues.
She starts looking around like there's a door that's going to open up for her to jump through.
Issues that they care about. And redistricting is a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just.
I love it. So this isn't the worst story. Just out this afternoon, new from Politico, from Melanie Mason. Katie Porter, she's got a really rough history of like abusing her staffers. Here she is screaming at a staffer who appeared in the shot of like an interview, some kind of a statement, something she was recording, because Katie Porter got a fact wrong. I know, shocking. Here you go.
Ready for stat number 2?
I am.
All right. $632, which is how much you save in fuel and maintenance costs when you replace your traditional car with an EV, with an electric vehicle. So I lease a Chevy Bolt. It is the best car that I have ever owned. I just plug it into the garage, 3-hole prong plug, and I never have to go to the gas station.
So now Katie's going to chime in, and here's where it goes downhill.
That's awesome. And $632 is real money. And I know here at UCI, we have a National Fuel Center Research Center, and they're also doing work on how to make electric vehicles affordable, including for low and moderate income people, working moms, single moms like me, people who really could benefit from an extra $632 in their pocket. And it's also not just the individual savings, but it's also the total savings for our economy. So I'm on the oversight committee, you might know, and that is where we did a study recently this fall in September. And what it showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air.
So now the staffer starts to come in the background.
Pollution and other problems, and the state could lose. Get out of my shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay,
Okay, it doesn't.
Also, we're in my shop before that.
You're in my shop before. How dare you?
Stay out of my shot.
And also, where's my mocha? And just incredible. So there you go. That's the Democrats' next great shot for California. Incredible stuff. I'm not really sure what they think they're going to gain from putting forward the most unlikable people in history. Here's, of all people, Maxine Dexter, Democrat of Oregon. Yeah, this is the lady who, said, we need to get out there and how did she put it? We need to F Trump.
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have to. I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump.
Yeah, this one. So she's also now out here trying to say, to be clear, undocumented immigrants have never been able to enroll in Medicaid and Medicare. It's just misinformation to marginalize our most vulnerable. And everyone is posting like the very first page of Google responses and other data, which shows, yeah, Oregon has a special program just for that. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Maxine Dexter, Oregon. So if Katie Porter is the angry old lady, then, liberal old lady, my Nana's a much kinder person in that particular age range, and also not a liberal, thank God. But for the Democrats, you have the angry middle-aged woman, and then you have the condescending middle-aged old woman. So Maxine Dexter, she's the condescending kind. The kind who is going to tell you Portland is the super duper safest place in the whole dang country. There's no Antifa. She can't see them from her $5 million gated community home with armed guards in Portland.
Maxine Dexter, Oregon's third, here on the Broadway Bridge, overlooking a beautiful day over peaceful Portland.
Hello, peasants. I'm not where people are being stabbed. All I'm just seeing are my servants running to pick the cotton for me.
Which Kristi Noem is going to see for herself as she has arrived here for a visit. And let's be clear, they are trying to tell a story, a reality TV story for a reality TV president that has nothing to do with the reality here on the ground in Portland.
If they're filming it like a reality TV show, then wouldn't they show the footage of Antifa, throwing Molotovs and stabbing people and beating people with sticks, like the videos that we showed, recorded from people on the left, right, and center in Portland. So it's amazing to see that she's trying this out. By the way, this is the same lady who a couple of days ago, of course, joined a bunch of other angry middle-aged liberals to sing and chant, "This land is your land, this land is my land." This land is my land. So at the very beginning of the video, you can see there's Maxine standing there in her graphic t-shirt next to Old Man Flannel, and they're getting down on their 15 ukuleles and bongs. This land is my land. By the way, she thinks that this is Antifa, by the way. She does. She thinks that all of the protesters, the Antifa, again, the people we've shown who are rolling around with ice on the ground, beating people with sticks, that's who she believes. She believes they're middle-aged women. Don't take it from me. Here she is saying it.
What is going on here nightly at the ICE facility?
Yeah, many of my constituents have been engaged for quite a long time, most of them middle-aged women who are just trying to bear witness.
Bear witness to what?
After the announcement of troop deployment to our city, it obviously is increased in size every night. And there can be challenges with peace, and I think mostly we're worried about the community around there. There's families that live there. There was a school nearby. So frankly, I think this troop deployment risk or threat has actually escalated the tensions there.
That's really special. Speaking of angry Democrat middle-aged women, on The View, they also have bought into J.B. Pritzker's paranoid, schizophrenic idea that the Texas National Guard is going to stroll into Chicago and steal ballot boxes and sacrifice the election integrity of Chicago. Here's the ladies of The View.
There is crime in American cities, but the way to deal with it is get the funding that you need for police, get the training that you need, and work with local officials.
This is a pretext to stop the next election. That's what I think it is.
I would say it might also be a distraction from the hearing that's going on right now about the Epstein files.
Right.
Some things have come up, and AG Pam Bondi was dodging questions.
Producer Nick.
The funding we need for police? What? How dare you, The View?
Well, yeah, defunding the police
police
is important. Great point. And also, didn't Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, just get called out for denying Epstein flight log release?
And attacking back, do you not think maybe the whole civil unrest storyline is maybe overblown?
I think.
Oh, it's overblown. They can't say it doesn't exist because there is civil unrest. I do love Joy Behar. They're going to steal ballot boxes. They're going to run away with them. Incredible stuff. Now, this does bring us to real Antifa. And the White House hosted an Antifa roundtable today that several of our friends were at. Julio Rosas, of course, has been on the show a ton. Andy No, as well as Nick Sordor, good friend. A lot of excellent on-the-ground riot coverage. And they made some pretty important statements. First of all, President Trump just looked at Rubio and said, get started on this whole congressional process for domestic terror nomenclature and kind of classification for Antifa. Actually start putting the executive order and likely the congressional bill behind in place.
Are you going to work with your administration, as the Secretary of State's here, are you going to work with your administration to designate it a foreign terror organization?
You mean a terror?
Antifa? A foreign terror organization.
Well, has that been done? Pretty close, right? Would you like to see it done?
Yes, Mr. President.
Do you think it would help?
They have foreign links
I'd be glad
all
to
across
do it.
Western
I think it's
Europe.
the kind of thing I'd like to do. If you'd like, does everybody agree? If you agree, I agree. Let's get it done. Okay? Let's get it done. Mark?
He looks over at Rubio.
We'll take care of it.
Mr. President.
That's international, you mean? Yes. International.
Yes,
sounds good to me.
Then we get to the real key issue behind it, which is where's all the money coming from? You know, you see a bunch of identical masks. Thank you. You see a bunch of identical masks and PPE, personal protection equipment, all the same Rubbermaid trash can cut in half and spray painted, the same stuff that's going to make the Molotovs, etc. That's got to come from somewhere. Well, yes, the Trump administration is actively investigating who is funding domestic terror in the United States.
Thank you very much. Great job. Impassioned. That's important because you should feel like that. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you for having us here and bringing together this panel of brave journalists, everybody on this side of the room. And no one can speak to the violence better than these people here. So I think we know that this is not just a story about violence and chaos, as you alluded to, Mr. President. This is a money story And at the Government Accountability Institute, my colleague and I, Peter Schweitzer and our team, we followed the money, and we followed it to the top of what we call the protest industrial complex, Riot Inc. And we found a network of NGOs. It's not just the Soros network, the Open Society network, it's other funding networks, the Arabella funding network, the Tides funding network, Neville Roy Singham and his network, Foreign Cash. And it's also big left-wing funders. Some of them are not citizens of this country. Mr. Hans-Jörg Wyss of Switzerland.
Hans-Jörg Wyss, you mean the guy funding the Indiana Chronicle, the Indiana Capital Chronicle, and other left-wing non-profit news outlets that only seem to report one way? Wow, I'm shocked. Man, now that I think about it, I've noticed a lot of those non-profit left-wing publications never seem to mention civil unrest in major U.S. cities. How curious.
They're pouring money into this entire ecosystem. And so I want to share 3 money facts with you about what we call Riot Inc. Number 1.
By the way, we'll link to that article here in a little bit because there is more news that we do need to dig into. Also, according to a brand new Virginia poll, because this all does come down to the midterms, essentially what you are looking at now is a home stretch through the Virginia gubernatorial and the New Jersey gubernatorial elections. Those are going to be kind of the touchstones. Then you're going to have primary season, which is going to be wild. And then you're going to move on from that season into the dead heat for the midterms. And the reason that's kind of note, that's of interest, why we're talking about that now, this is going to be a midterm election unlike any other. Right now, there is still not one Democrat policy they've put forward, not one counter bill. Republicans put forward failed legislation all day during Democrat administrations. They say, this is what we want Americans to do. This is where we want Americans to go. This is what we have ready to move on. And then they run on those policies and proposals. Right now, so far, the biggest policy push for Democrats is Al Green getting out there and going, "Your dastardly deeds undone," and trying to impeach Trump for, well, I'm not even sure what he tried to impeach him for. Well, for dastardly deeds. And other great AC/DC songs. So it's really weird to see the Democrats struggling. So far, they've got angry old ladies, they've got condescending old ladies, and they have people like Gavin Newsom, governor of California, who is currently trying his rootin' tootinest to get out of what is likely going to be a serious legal challenge, because you are not allowed in any way, shape, or form to belittle the cause of natural disaster stuff from a public position. You can't do that. I'll remind you, the Alex Jones lawsuit that he was liable for regarding the Sandy Hook situation, you can't get out before the American people and lie about mass tragedy, incidents, and natural disasters. That's a big no-no. Now, J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, meanwhile, he's getting out here. Here's a big tech tough man. Hefferson Davis, he's ready to go. He's going to fight Trump with his bare hands.
You know as well as I do, the President of the United States in the last 24 hours called for you to be imprisoned. I want to give you an opportunity. We've seen your reaction on social media, but I want to hear what you have to say back to the President of the United States.
Well, let's start with the idea that this is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that.
Ah, yes, the governor of Illinois lecturing us on the felon status. Good stuff. Hey, producer Nick, do a little quick Google search for me. How many Illinois governors have been in prison over the last decade? Just do a little search for me.
Who is threatening to jail me? I got to
the most lovable man in Springfield. Sorry, go ahead, Homer Simpson.
Say this guy's unhinged. He's insecure. He's a wannabe dictator. And there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me. So come and get me.
If you come to my people, then it's buy one, get one. I love those deals at local restaurants. Radio crew will send you off to the commercial. When we come back, it's David McIntosh. The Blitz strategy's here. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Producer Nick, I know that it's more than 2 Illinois governors have been sent off. 4 out of 10 of the last governors in Illinois are in jail or have been sent to jail. Otto Kerner Jr., Dan Walker, George Ryan, Rod Blagojevich. Yeah. Well, J.B. Pritzker, you may be among friends. But, so past that, now we get to the most hilarious defense of the day. That comes from Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff and Tim Kaine have made it their life's mission to take the most unlikable, worst, least popular battles and make that their entire thing. So, for example, in the Caribbean, Adam Schiff is very, very upset that the President of the United States has authorized the U.S. Navy to go after narco-terrorists. He's very, very upset. He said, this would be yesterday, tweet, quote, "Tomorrow I, along with Senator Tim Kaine, the guy that looks like Dr. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future, drank a bit too much." He said, "Tomorrow I, along with Senator Tim Kaine, will be forcing a vote to block President Trump's use of our armed forces to conduct strikes against vessels in the Caribbean Sea." Ah, yeah, just vessels. You know, rowboats, paddle boats, jet skis, that one pontoon your uncle has that he gets a little bit too sauced on. You know, vessels. Congress has not authorized these strikes. Yeah, Congress doesn't authorize one-off strikes. And by the way, it wasn't meant to. The idea that you have to declare war in order to launch a military strike is a matter of national security. That's not a thing. It's not. Womp womp. It's not. If Congress had to authorize every single strike you would get during the Obama administration, in 72 hours, I'm going to get out there and announce that we might strike this one place. Unless it's a wedding, we strike those right away. And then the people would run away. Again, unless you were at a wedding. And then he would drone strike you right away. You know, throw a lovely, air-to-ground missile right at you. I do love his last line here. They, meaning the strikes, are illegal and risk dragging America into another war. With whom? Who are we being dragged into a war with? Who? What, Venezuela's going to declare war on the United States? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okie dokie. The last war we fought in this hemisphere was with the Spanish Empire, and we were so excited to wipe out their control of Cuba that we may have gotten a little too excited about the Maine exploding in the Havana Harbor. So, yeah, that ain't happening. Claudia Sheinbaum's going to mobilize against the United States. Oh, yes, please. I would love to occupy Mexico City again. Por favor. Get Hakeem Jeffries to help us draft the speaker, or the treaty, because the sombrero and everything. Very good stuff. Well, this does, in fact, lead us to the big strategy for the midterms. Republicans, for the very first time, are throwing all they have at a midterm election, which is insane. We've never done this before. I'm serious. Normally we're like, oh, we're going to win the midterms, so don't spend any money because we're totally going to handle it. And then, they get royally screwed because they don't take it seriously. Well, guys like David McIntosh, who we're going to talk with up next, are actually going all in on this. We got to pick the radio crew back up from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
So if you're going to do a midterm blitz, and I mean a true all-out throwing all of the money into the pot, going all in for broke, you bring on David McIntosh, Club for Growth, former congressman of mine in Indiana, and a guy who knows that if you're going to go for it, you might as well go all the way. David, thanks for joining us again.
Great to be with you, Tony. Thank you.
Well, let's hop right in. You've got strategies in California, New York. You've got strategies in Indiana and Tennessee because redistricting is running really hot right now. Kansas, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio. What is the ground game looking like for the midterms?
It's key that we win these redistricting efforts in the state level. The House is very closely divided. Democrats for 10 years have been rigging the system in California, Massachusetts, Illinois, all of the deep blue states where they've totally gerrymandered, made it so that Republicans are virtually unrepresented from those states, even though they don't have a majority, but 45% of their electorate are Republicans voting for President Trump, want to vote for Republican members of Congress. So now it's time Republicans really do the same thing. Texas led, and we're going to have 5 more seats there. Missouri also redistricted. We've got 1 seat there. Our home state of Indiana is looking at it. I think we could get 2 seats there. Ohio has to redistrict. They've got a kind of strange redistricting law that if it's not bipartisan back in 2020, 2021, then they have to redo it now for 2026. And we think we can pick up 2 more seats there in Ohio.
Well, that's actually, we'll put a pin in that one. I want you to give us the rest of them. But Ohio was just mentioned to me yesterday, turning out to be way more important in 26 than anyone thought. But please continue.
No, you're absolutely right. Definitely we should come back to it. Kentucky is looking at it. That may be more difficult. And then Florida has said, yes, we're going to take it up next year when the regular session starts in January. And we're looking at some other states as well. But the goal here is to add anywhere from 5 to 10 more Republican seats by matching what the Democrats have done for the last decade. And then conservatives and Republicans will be represented in Congress. But honestly, I think even without the additional seats, we're winning right now. Yesterday in Tennessee, we had a special election in the primary to replace Mark Green, who's retiring. Our guy, Matt Bennett, shout out to him. He's going to be a great new congressman, won handily with President Trump's endorsement. And Club for Growth, like you said, we came in strong, probably $1 million in spending in that campaign. Jim Jordan also spent some of his resources. He's a great ally, and we won decisively. What that tells me is that President's approval rating is still very, very high, that Republicans are willing to come out and vote when he says it's important. And so in the midterm, as we all know, if the Democrats get the majority, day one, they'll start impeaching him. They'll start impeaching his cabinet. They'll try to stop everything he's doing. They're already doing that. They just don't have the power to. And so the message that we're going to send voters in the midterms is we can't let the Democrats back in the door. All they'll do is try to stop the president, stop the progress, undo it, rewind it, go back to the bad old Biden days. And so I think we could just win flat out, even without the redistricting, because the presidents remain strong, remain positive. There's also, this gets into the nitty gritty a little, Tony, but there's some structural advantages we have. As you know, there's only about 25, maybe 30 seats that end up being battleground seats in a close election. And of those seats, there are more Democrats sitting in a Trump district than Republicans representing a Kamala Harris district. So structurally, we also have a slight advantage going into that midterm.
Well, that's what makes California so fascinating, that's what makes Ohio so fascinating to me. And this is, of course, we at the Daily Signal have just put in a special correspondent into Ohio, Rebecca Downs, formerly of Town Hall. She's covering a ton of I didn't realize how intensive those campaigns were this time around, because obviously Ohio's gone more red in kind of the presidential over the last couple of elections, but it's congressional districts. And then, of course, that redistricting effort you mentioned, very highly contested. And this could be a big turning point, a big swivel point for the state of Ohio for the next 10, 20 years. Tell us about what you're seeing in the ground there.
No, that's exactly right. And it starts at the governor's race. Vivek Ramaswamy is exciting Republicans and independents all over the state with his vision for the state. There's going to be a Senate race with the newly appointed Senator Husted. The Democrats recruited Sherrod Brown to come back and try to take back a Senate seat. But
with
then
some rather lackluster results so far, but yeah. Sherrod's still trying, God bless him.
I think Ohio turned the corner on that one, and they realized he sounded like one of them, but he went back to Washington and he just voted with all these far left crazies who are shutting down the government. There's a smell of
some sour milk on some of the votes that actually hit the floor that I don't think are going to resonate this time.
Yeah, no, that's right. And then you're right, at the congressional level, Marcy Kaptur's seat will likely be redistricted, and we'll have a good candidate there, a good, strong conservative. And then down a couple of other places, Cincinnati and down and over in Akron, they're looking at how to draw the maps, where to try to produce one more Republican-leaning seat there. And we've been interviewing candidates. There are a lot of good candidates that are emerging for those races. The way we do it here at the Club for Growth is we interview almost all of them, and we find out who's committed to free markets, limited government, lower taxes, who's going to support President Trump on that economic agenda, and then who's going to put together the good campaign that they'll reach out and talk to the grassroots. They don't just talk to the donor community. They actually get out there and work it and get the votes. And in the end, I think President Trump's endorsement of the candidates is going to be important because it's going to tell voters in Ohio, we need you back again. You can't just vote every 4 years. We need you. This is almost like a referendum on President Trump. Get out and vote.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the keys anyway, when you look at the Rust Belt areas. And speaking of Akron and Cincinnati, if you actually get a candidate to host an event at the Jungle Gym supermarket, the world's largest supermarket, then, I mean, you just win by fiat. That place is incredible. But I digress. I'm going to get texts. But in all seriousness, though, there is a revivification, kind of a reawakening of a kind of populist republicanism in the Rust Belt states who were largely abandoned during the Obama years that now have swung back over to the Trump movement. And you've seen even a lot of union members that may have caused a lot of problems for Republicans, maybe especially up near Toledo, Sandusky, now are moving forward with kind of Republican-based congressmen. I know you guys have a lot more people that are in touch with those communities. How do you navigate the line between kind of the populist, kind of former 1990s union era Democrats that are now Republicans, and then your kind of Tea Party, kind of hardcore free market classical Republicans? That's a really tough line for anyone to thread, but Club for Growth does it all the time.
Yeah, no, it's important. And I was just talking with some of our supporters. We view our mission as welcoming in these new Republican voters that used to be Democrat. That's my family history. My grandfather was appointed by Roosevelt postmaster. That was a patronage job in the little town of Bourbon, Indiana. My mom ran for city judge as a Democrat, but the Democrat Party left our family, right? They didn't stand for the values that we believed in. And so what we're reaching out to the new voters who used to be Union Democrats and saying, you know, the limited government freedom works for you as well. What we want to do is unleash opportunity so that jobs will be brought back to America. Working families can succeed. You can earn enough money to live a good life, put your kids through college, have a vacation, have a fishing boat. As you know, that's kind of important a lot of time. And those are the messages that we're taking to them. Things like the President Trump's no tax on tips. That's told people who work hard serving you meals at a restaurant, they're going to get a break. And they're struggling to oftentimes have two jobs in order to make ends meet. That's a message that Republicans care about you. We're going to take care of you. And yet it's compatible with the free market approach of let's lower taxes, right? Let people keep more of their money.
Not let's take care of you through handouts, but let's take care of you by getting as much out of your way as possible.
Yep. I was just talking to a developer of middle income housing, and I was telling him everybody thinks it's too expensive. And he said, yeah, it keeps going up and up to build these. I can build them at probably 2/3 the cost if you got rid of the local zoning and regulations. And I'll build really good houses they'll like. It's not like we're going to skimp on it and give them a crappy house. But these local regulations of where we can locate, how many houses we can build, all of that, he said, just adds cost. And so one of the things we need to do, and I've been talking to some of the Republican senators, maybe in another tax cut bill, we can give tax incentives for local government to actually get rid of these regulations. We already give them subsidies on all their bonding authority. So link that to something that not just helps business, but helps ordinary people who are trying to buy their first house.
I think that giving individuals access to kind of the same cuts and opportunities that some businesses, that some facets of the economy have access to is obviously a huge room for opportunity and, dare I say, room for growth.
That sounds great, Tony. I would just close with one thing. One of the reasons we get a lot of these new former Democrat voters is the Democrat Party itself has gone crazy, right? With the Mandami up in New York, he's likely to be the elected. Although I've got a good friend who's a normal, solid, middle-of-the-road Democrat who's trying to stop him because he doesn't want his party to go off the rails. But it's very hard. The Socialist Workers Party has all the Soros money. The Democrat Socialists of America that elected AOC are now trying to elect more
the
people.
Molotov cocktails and the money, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And so folks who were raised in a Democrat household taught that work is important and that family is important and that going to church is important. And that used to be the Democrat Party claimed we're for the working man, working family. Now they don't say that. They can't say that because what they're for are these radical far left crazy groups that want to destroy our Constitution, destroy America as we know it, replace it with this far left kind of elite view of break down the family. Doesn't matter what you think you are or how you were born. If you think you're some other gender, we're going to encourage that. All of this stuff that for average folks just seems way out there, and their parties committed to that. And so that gives us Republicans a chance to invite them to become Republican.
I think that's pretty, again, I think that's pretty on spot. I would say that that's a pretty fair bet anyway, especially when you look at the communities themselves that have shifted even from the Obama coalition over to kind of the Trump populist push in the Republican Party. And I think that's, well, I mean, it's obviously important from an electoral standpoint, but also as like a base societal point to see America shifting back towards things that aren't mentally bonkers. So again, David McIntosh, thrilled to have you as always. Of course, link to Club for Growth down in the description. Check him out. Thanks again, sir.
Thanks, Tony. Great.
All right, we've got a little bit of breaking news on the back end of this that I think is absolutely worth covering here, and a little bit of bonus tonus. And first of all, in the shortest-lived prime minister term since the start of the Fifth Republic of France, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu resigns just a few hours after forming his government. So France has had governments just toppling left and right. Well, just left and left, because France sucks. And by the way, it is Emmanuel Macron who keeps picking individuals as the super duper ultra presidente. And I got to say, really not a good look for France, but nothing's really a good look for France anymore. Also, earlier, I wasn't quite sure whether Katie Porter was running for, because she's a former representative, I wasn't sure if she was running for the Senate or the governor's race. She's running for governor. And if she's doing that horribly in interviews and Politico is now coming after her, it's going to be a fun gubernatorial race. Yee-haw. Might even get old Kamala Sauced Harris back in motion. So those two things aside, one last excellent bit of news. In the Virginia Attorney General gubernatorial race between good old Jay Jones, the man whose text messages just keep getting worse, who not only wished for the death of a political opponent, but also, wife and kids. And then also said, maybe you need a couple of police to die in order to get social change moving. Because, that's what you want an attorney general, the chief law enforcement officer, to believe. Democrat Jay Jones versus Jason Miyares, who has been trailing as the current attorney general. He's been trailing Jay Jones previously in the polls. Well, according to Hart Research, between October 4th and 6th, Jay Jones is now only 1 point ahead of Jason Miyares. It's 46-45. In Virginia, that's for any campaign. If you are only 1 point ahead of the Republican, you're screwed. And no major Democrats across the country are calling for this guy to resign. The Virginian elections are likely to be a really rough spot for Democrats because they have sided behind this. And McIntosh Club for Growth, one of the groups that is putting out strong advertisements, pointing out these discrepancies. And they have to, because the media is not going to do it. How did Axios cover Jay Jones saying maybe a couple of cops needed to die and, a couple of bullets for the former Speaker of the House, and also wife and kids, just a bunch of little fascists that may need to die? Well, Axios covered it like this, quote, "Scoop, Virginia AG candidate Jay Jones cancels fundraiser amid 2 bullets backlash." You don't know what 2 bullets means in the context of that headline? Oh, okay. That's because Axios sucks. And their reporting consistently, as we all know, covers for the Democrat candidate. And if the candidate's campaign is under too much scandal, then it's Republicans pounce on the scandal. So Jay Jones is in such a rough spot right now that he's canceling fundraisers for fear of being asked questions as more people reveal information. It's really getting hard to pass off as just a one-off joke. Come on, who hasn't wished for, their opponents' wives and kids to die? Yikes. Not a very good look. Now, that said, a personal moment between you and I and the producers here at the end of the show. I'm going to level with you. A couple of days ago, our youngest was engaged in some rough stomach stuff. Kept us up all night, kids and getting out of nowhere, throwing up bile and other good stuff. The next day, our eldest enjoyed the same thing. Today, my wife enjoyed the same thing. And now, producer Nick is apparently at death's door in the same way with this lovely stomach flu, strep, vertigo combination. Right now, I feel fine. I don't have evidence leading to the arrest of Hillary Clinton or anything. But if for some reason we announce tomorrow that there's no show, yeah, that's why. So tomorrow, I hope to have a show. Like I said, I feel great. I mean, I'm tired, but, a day ending in Y. The news never ends. So just being real with you, there's a soft chance that I might be lying in bed, more off my rocker than Kamala at a book tour. So just a little something special from me to you. And with that, have a wonderful evening. This is the Tony Kennett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. You take care, and God knows I'll try to.